Hello, CS120 people. How's it going? Sorry I couldn't be with you on this image editing day. So today I'm going to review some things from the last class about advanced graphics editing and go over some of the qualifications for the project for this week. So important, you do the tutorial first. That way you get some of these skills better developed. For this particular project, you're going to have multiple files that you're going to incorporate together into a single file with layers. If you're going to work with layers, then you have to use the PXD layered image format. Other big deal about this project is we want an aspect ratio that's 6:4, 3:2, and the finished product will have 3 different versions as a PNG. Each of these are a 6:4 ratio. So that's a pretty common postcard ratio. And this is the pixels in that 6:4. You can consider it 6 inches by 4 inches when you print it if you wish. That can be adjusted later. We're just going to set up the graphics part of that digitally. So I'd recommend working with bigger than 1800 by 1200 and then scaling the final versions down. PXD layered images don't scale well when you have text in them. So we will not do any scaling down of the PXD file once we have it built. So first we have to build our PXD file. So the point here is to come up with something to advertise. So I'm going to advertise the Blue Mountain Community College Computer Science program. So I'm going to make a relatively simple postcard that has multiple layers for that. So I wanted to start with a background image, and since we are Blue Mountain Community College, I thought I would take my recent favorite picture of the Blue Mountains here. And so here is an old dirt road and blues facing up into a nice sky. So I'm going to use this as my background. Right now, it's hard to see, I'm sure, in the recording. This image is 3,264 pixels by 2,448 pixels. And I'm going to need to mess around to figure out how to adjust the actual canvas size that this image will sit in. So I have a spreadsheet here to help me do that. So you're going to have to think about a little math for this project. All right, so the current background image I picked has a width of 3,264 pixels and a height of 2,448 pixels. If I then use my spreadsheet to divide those two numbers, width over height, that gives me an aspect ratio of about 1 1/3. So that would be 4:3 as opposed to 6:4. So I desire a 6:4 aspect ratio. So I'm going to put that in here. So if the current ratio is 1:3, that means it's not wide enough to go with the particular height that I have. My numerator is too small. So what I could say is, well, let's suppose I stick with this height, 2,448, and I want to calculate what the width has to be. Well, the width is going to be bigger, which means I'm going to multiply by the aspect ratio. So I can go equals current height times the aspect ratio, and the aspect ratio tells me then that my picture should be at least, should be exactly 3,672 pixels wide if I want to keep the current height. So that means I could add, what, roughly 400 pixels to the width, and I'll have the desired aspect ratio. I'm just going to test that out here. So I could go to my image here, and I could, let's see. First thing I probably should do is change this from a JPEG to a layered image. So I'm going to save it, and I'm going to give it a new name. Let's call this postcard attempt 1. Let me decide this is a failed attempt. That happens sometimes. I don't want a JPEG, I want a PXD. But I can always re-edit. And let's say I want it to be attempt 1. There we go. And it's going to save it in my Google Drive. That is fine. Hopefully our connection to Pixlr and Google works okay in class. And isn't too slow. You will have to save some files on your computer or in your Pixlr library, so make sure you get logged into Pixlr. So it has your name in the upper right corner for that to work. So let's see, what do I want to do here? I'm going to change image, the canvas size, and I'm going to make it 3672. Where'd you go? There we go. So I'm going to adjust up here, 3672. And let's see, if I anchor it to the left, that means new pixels will appear to the right. And by default, they're going to end up white, I believe, in this program. So I hit OK. And so now if I zoom out a little, I can see I have a little extra space here to work with. So if you like that extra space here, you could put some stuff in there. I think I would also like some text to be underneath here. Yeah, text to be underneath here. I'm not sure if I want the white space on the side. So I think I'm going to take a different approach in editing this, which means I may have to crop the image. So you're going to have to play around depending on the image sizes you mess with. So I don't think I like that. So I got the spreadsheet to help me play around with sizes. So let's see. Maybe I want to just go bigger, and what if I went with a, say, 4,000 pixel width? The height is smaller to have a 4:6 ratio. So if I want the ratio to be 1.5, then in this case I would have to take the width and divide by the 1.5 aspect ratio. So 266 and 2/3, that's kind of not a nice number, so I could try some different measurement here. So let's see, that means there's a division by 3 going on. So I could make this number a multiple of 3, maybe something like 4,200 pixels. And that gives me 2,800 for the width. Okay, I could go for something like that. So let's see, bottom line with this particular image, it is too tall to go with the width. So I could crop it down. So we'll deal with the computer guy in a minute. Move over. All right, so let's play around a little bit more. If I want to maintain a 1:5 aspect ratio, but I don't want to add extra space to the left or right, I want to keep this width and figure out how to crop the height. Now I could also do this in the program too, so I'll demonstrate that too. So I want to take my width, height is smaller, which means I have to divide by the aspect ratio of 1.5. And okay, so if I crop the height to 2,176 pixels, I'd have the right aspect ratio. Now, bottom line here is I want to add extra space too, so that complicates matters. So, so you can do calculations to mess around, or you can just mess around with the image itself. So let's see. So other ways I can mess around, I could use either the crop tool or the selection tool and do something like constrain with an aspect ratio of 6:4, and it will automatically draw rectangles that fit that aspect ratio. And so I could make it as wide as possible and then move it around and decide which part of the image I want to keep. Now again, I'm going to throw some extra space in the image anyway. So let's say I don't need as much of the ground. Maybe my extra space could go in there. All right, so I'm just going to keep messing around here. So let's say we'll make the height 4. Oh, don't want to change. No. Let's go 4 to 3 and add extra space. See what that looks like. And again, when you're designing something like this, it is a playground. You have to see what pieces you have and figure out how to work with them. So maybe I want most of the sky and only some of the ground. And then that'll give me room for some space underneath. So I'm just going to mess around and see what that looks like. I'm going to hit enter to crop it. And then I am going to unlock the background layer and add a new layer. Let's see, does this add a new layer there? Yeah. And I'm going to change the order of these two. And I'm going to make my background layer, what color would be good? Some kind of blue, because this is Blue Mountain Community College. Oops, wrong button. Let's say I'm going to grab that blue right there. And I can bucket fill. Notice I'm on layer 3, which is my lower layer here. and now layer 3 is blue. If I turn off my layer 1, 0. Okay, so I can rename these by double clicking. So this is the blues photo. This is a background color. Okay, so now let's go to layer and image and change the canvas size. And let's see, my current width is 3259, so that must have gotten cropped somehow. So let's see, I want this to be 3259, and then that says the height should be about 2173, roughly. Oops, where'd you go? All right, so then I can go here, 2173, and it added some extra space underneath, and again, I can bucket fill that extra space there. Ooh, crap, I'm on the wrong image. See, I was in the wrong layer when I did that. There. Let's see, undo that. So you got to pay attention to which layer you're in. I want the background to be all blue. There it goes. And when I turn this layer background, it automatically gets that blue. Now looking at that, that doesn't look good there, that color. So I'm going to have to change that later. All right, other things. I want to incorporate some other things here. So I do have an image that's 3,259 pixels wide by 2,173. And according to this here, that is as close as I can get with that number right there to the correct aspect ratio within a fraction of a pixel. Okay, so that's good. I want to incorporate some other stuff. So I have in my Google Drive this computer nerd guy I'm going to throw in there, and then I'll probably put in the BMCC logo in there too. You can see I saved my postcard as a PXD file. All right, so playing around here, if I want to get a file into this particular Pixlr session from Google Drive, I would have to open it in Pixlr and then save it to the Pixlr library, which means I have to be logged into Pixlr. And so as long as I'm logged in, if I'm not, I click login, and then I can go to File, Save, and I can say put this computer guy in my Pixlr library, and OK, and it'll get put in there. I already did that earlier. Similar, if I want the BMCC logo in there, I would have to open it in Pixlr and then transfer it to my Pixlr library. So this session here can access it. Although we can save to the Google library, we can't pull directly out of it in the current integration of Pixlr and Google. So I save it to my Pixlr library, choose OK, and it's now in there. So then I can go here, and I can then add things. And then we got to be careful. Often when you add another image to a canvas, it might not be the right size, and you can't adjust that in Pixlr. Some programs let you resize layers. Pixlr does not have that option that I can find. So I want new layer from library, and I want the BMCC logo, open, and it is in layer 4, so let's move layer 4 up so I can see it. Okay, so that's not a bad size. So I can get the move tool, and I can put it, say, down here. And again, these colors are not going well, so I'll have to fix that later. Zoom in a little. Uh-oh, zooming isn't working. So we can go to View, Show All. There we go. All right, maybe we should pick another color now for that background. Maybe a lighter blue, or maybe we should just go with white. So we can grab white there, all Fs, and then bucket fill it in the correct layer. Bang. I don't like that either. So anyway, we're going to play around, find a color that we like. So that one, we'll come back to that later. All right, again, adding layers. I can add a layer from my library. I already put that computer guy in there. Let's see how his size looks. And open. And he is in the wrong spot, so let's drag him up higher in the layers. Okay, so there he is. And he seems a little bit too big there. And I'm pretty sure that I don't have the, this is cool. If you click on the layers options, you can affect the opacity of a layer. Make that guy see-through. Anyway, that's not what I want to do. Layers. Okay, so you can resize a whole image, you can't resize a layer. So if I don't like the way he came in, then I have to trash him and resize him. So let's open him. So this one, 20, computer guy, and he's way too big. So again, just double checking. This picture is over 3,000 pixels wide. My computer guy is over 1,000 pixels wide, so he's roughly like a third of the width. So I want to make him smaller. So image size, we're going to scale him down. Let's try half the size. So half of that is roughly 600-ish. What happened? 600-ish. Constrained proportions is important when you're resizing something. All right. And then another way to get him in here is I think I can grab his layer. So I'm active in his image, so I can see his layer and his image, versus if I was on the postcard, I see the postcard layers. And I think I can just drag his layer into this one, and we'll add this new layer. Cool. And I can move it around. That's a better one. So we can just sit him in the middle of the road, perhaps. Off to the side. Find a nice place for him to sit on top of the hill. Oh, there we go. It's kind of nice. All right. So I like his size now. I might apply some effects to the image. If we play with effects, we have to be careful. So we have to pick the right layer. Let's give him a name, computer guy. Get a name of layers. Layer 4, where's layer 4? That is probably the BMCC logo. Yeah, that turns on and off. Okay, so I have a few layers. I have my background color, I have my photograph, I have my BMCC image, and I have my computer guy. If I want to mess around, like adjust the background, the Blue Mountain photo, what I would do is make a copy of that layer, like we did in class the other day. So I have a duplicate dot copy sitting on top. And then what I could do is I could add a layer mask to that to pick part of it to edit. So that wipes out the whole thing. So if I turn off the actual image, and then I grab my paintbrush, I'm pretty sure I need black. And let's make a big brush. Okay. I can start painting the transparency into the mask, and so I can reveal parts of the image. So I'm going to make this visible. So let's say I want to mess with the sky. So I can't use a selection tool because there's too many different colors in the sky, and there's too many different colors in the grass. And I really should zoom in on the border there. And the computer guy's irrelevant because he's in a different layer. So I'm painting in transparency into my mask. My mask becomes opaque. And hopefully you watch those videos and the tutorial. I'm getting kind of close there. Now remember, the cool thing about a mask versus a selection, if you accidentally select too much, like right there, I didn't want that in there. I can use the eraser to undraw, put opacity back in instead of transparency. So the eraser brings back transparent part of the mask. The paintbrush puts in transparency. So I can touch up these little spots here. back to the paintbrush. Paint this stuff back in. Okay, so I think I've got enough of this. And again, that's the cool thing about a mask is you can adjust the selection by going back and forth between the brush and the eraser. And again, the better way to do that edge is to zoom way in on it. You can use the bird's eye tool to adjust and figure out what you want to clean up. The brush is way too big at the moment. You can always change the brush size and then touch up. If you want to be a perfectionist, and some of you are. And so then the point of this is I can now mess with this layer mask without affecting the original, just a spot there, original photograph layer. Oh, interesting, I have some extra white there. I'll try and fix that after. So let's see. So I could apply an adjustment. And again, I want to be in the right layer when I do that. Like the solarize is kind of fun. We were playing with that the other day. Ooh, that's a cool sky. You can bring back in the other part of the photo. That looks kind of ominous and scary. I don't think we like that. So take that out. I can, again, I'm in my mask. So I probably should rename that. Photo mask. So I know which one I'm editing. Let's see, I might want to make that brighter, complete the color balance. Didn't make much of a difference. Let's do that. What else can I mess with? Filters, I could sharpen up the sky. And I'm doing this without affecting the other stuff. Brightness and contrast. Ooh, that's pretty bright. A little too bright. Up the contrast a touch. And it doesn't mess with the grass. And then I can reverse that. I could play around with the grass stuff here, do something different with that. Now I could just mess around with the photo too. But I'm going to make a copy, duplicate layer, and I'm going to call this one grass mask. So then in my grass mask, I'm going to reveal the grass. So where's my brush? And again, it's up to you how you want to edit your photo, but I want you to play around with masks. I want you to play around with layers. Oh, something's wrong. Oh, I forgot to put the mask in. Edit, undo, mask on that. Let's see, where is mask? Add layer mask. Okay, so now there we go. And it sits in between, so I'm not too worried about the edge. And I can always tidy it up later. There's also gradient masks that you can apply. So you can apply an effect that's heavy on one end of the gradient and light on the other. So feel free to look up gradient masks on the internet. All right, so maybe here I want to adjust this layer mask by desaturating it, which will make it look black and white. Okay, so we have this guy in the bright sky with the black and white background. Sepia would look better. Ooh, gosh, no. Well, maybe it's kind of like Wonderland now. Okay, so then maybe I'll put some text in here, and maybe I want the text to match that color blue. So I'm going to switch to, let's see, I should change that to logo for the name. And grab the color picker. And pick that blue right there. And so then I can write in some text here. And let's see, I font it off a little. up a bit. I like that font. That looks good. It's pretty close to the current college font. Let's go with that. And so it puts it in its own layer with the text name. Let's see, so we got some more text like for computer science. So let's see what I can do. I can change the world. And while you're editing text, you can easily move it around. Otherwise, you have to, after you put the text in, you would have to then use the move tool to do that. So let's see. Maybe I want that centered in that region. And I want it over here more. Line it up the edge there. Okay, so I have some text layers in there. So if I want to move one of these, I can switch over, zoom in maybe to grab this guy. Oops, it's grabbing because I'm in the wrong layer. How about grab the right layer, Gary? Okay. So now I can move that layer. I want it up a little higher. Maybe I want it on the right. Put that there. So it's your composition. You have to decide how to move it around. And when you're moving stuff, you've got to change the layer. That composition isn't my strong suit. Looks like they all need to be lined up. Okay. So you could add more stuff, play around, but we want to go over all the basics. You want to play around with layers. You want to play around with graphical type images versus photograph type images. You want to play with masks and or selections. Now notice I didn't do any selections here. I just used masks. They're related, but they have slightly different characteristics. When you're done with the whole thing, you want to save it again. So I'm going to do a save on it, and I'm going to say I'm done. So I'm going to call it postcard final. And then I want to make sure it's a layered image so I can go back and edit my layers if later I decide there's something I don't like. If you grab an image from somewhere else, when you submit your assignment, you will need to post in there where you got your image and what the licensing was. So I'll show you my guy here in a minute. Is it ready? Okay, where's it going to go? It's going to go on my Google Drive. Cool. Okay. So I finished most of what I needed to in terms of the basic requirements here. And I have my PXD image in a 6:4 aspect ratio, and I have a higher resolution than 18 by 1200. So then it's time to save it as a PNG and then resize the PNGs. If you try to resize a layered image, sometimes the layers don't behave well. So that generally doesn't go well. So before you do any resizing, after you save the final PXD, then you save it as some output format, either JPEG or PNG. We're recommending PNG here. So postcard final, this one I'll call full res. And that's going to save to my drive as a PNG. And now it's time to resize. So image size, I want it to maintain the aspect ratio. I want it to be 1800 by 1200. It automatically adjusts because I had a 4:6 ratio. So all I had to do was change the width and it changed the height. Okay. Oh gosh, that didn't go well. Oh, it was preserving the layers. Okay, so undo. All right, in order for this part to work well, I have to close the layered version. I already saved it. And then, here's my guy. I'm gonna have to reopen. Oops, what did I do? Cancel, close. No save. All right, I'm gonna have to reopen the image over here. So here's my PNG. So I reopen that in Pixlr, and then I can resize it. You'll note that once it's reopened, the layers are gone. If the layers are there, resizing is a problem with text. Okay, and the text looks funny now just because the way it's zoomed in or zoomed out. So let's go to image size, 1800. Okay, and then it should resize fine. Everything is now, so when I save it as a PNG, it changes the text to an image of text, and so it resizes fine. So then I can save this as final 1800 by 1200, and then you can repeat the same thing for the other smaller versions. And so those are all going to get put in my drive. So I have my original versions, I have my PXD versions. This computer guy I got there, if I go to my dimension sheet, in a comment here, I recorded where I got him from. And so I grabbed him from Pixabay. Pixabay is a nice place to find free images. Now this is public domain, which means I don't have to cite my source. But when I submit my project here, I'm going to cite my source. Okay, so that's important. So where the heck did you go? So photo guy, where are you? Oh, there you are. So in there, when I do my submission, along with putting a link to my Google Drive here, I'm going to want to say something like computer guy. Just like here, when we do a URL, we want to make it a hyperlink into a new tab. And if there's any other images, then you have to link to those. Like I'm going to have to make a link to where I got my BMCC logo. So on. All right, that's it. That should be all the tools you need to finish this project. Good luck. If you have any problems, email me. Ta-ta.